What happened when a prisoner exposed a hidden secret about the warden, the cell that should have stayed silent? Hit subscribe before the lights go out, because once you hear what a single inmate uncovered about the warden, you'll understand why some secrets are buried in concrete. Greystone Penitentiary was the kind of prison that locals whispered about but never visited. A cold slab of aging concrete on the outskirts of rural Virginia, it had survived riots, lawsuits, and federal investigations. Yet somehow, it always stayed open. Always funded. Always protected. No one questioned Greystone. Until Damon Rourke arrived. Rourke wasn't a typical inmate. No gang ties. No violent priors. Just a former auto mechanic who took a plea deal after being caught in the wrong robbery at the wrong time. Quiet. Observant. The type of man who listened more than he spoke, and who remembered details other inmates forgot. But 3 months into his sentence, Rourke noticed something strange. Every Thursday night, around 2:30 a.m., a group of guards escorted selected inmates down a locked hallway marked C-Wing Storage. It wasn't on the public map. It wasn't in the inmate handbook. When Rourke asked about it, he got the same answer from everyone. There is no C-Wing. But he'd heard the boots. Heard the muffled voices. The dragging sounds. The crying. And once, he smelled bleach so thick it burned his throat. Rourke filed grievances. They got lost. He requested a transfer. It was denied. When he tried asking a guard directly, he was thrown in solitary for disrespect. And when he wrote a letter to his sister explaining what he'd seen, he was called to the warden's office. Warden Elias Wardell was a tall, calm man with the kind of voice that made threats sound like advice. Damon, he said that day, sliding the letter across the table, you don't want to involve your family in prison matters. Let's keep them safe, yes. The message was clear. Stop asking questions. Stop noticing things. Rourke walked out shaken, but now certain the warden was hiding something. The turning point came on a freezing December night when a new inmate named Luis Vega was transferred into Rourke's cell block. Vega was young, anxious, and terrified of something he refused to explain. On his second night, Rourke found him curled beneath his bunk, whispering, "Don't let them take me. Not to C-Wing. Please." Rourke asked what happened. Vega swallowed, trembling. "I saw it," he whispered. "The room. The bags. The chairs. The noise." He never finished the sentence. The next morning, Vega was gone. Guards claimed he'd been transferred. But his belongings were still in the cell. His toothbrush still wet. His blanket still warm. And most chilling of all, his shoes still next to his bunk. No one transfers an inmate barefoot at 5 a.m. Rourke knew then that Vega hadn't left. He'd been taken. That night, Rourke made a decision: he would follow the guards. He wrapped a towel around his fist, shattered a light bulb in the communal hallway, and triggered an emergency maintenance call. When the guards responded, he slipped into the shadows and waited. At exactly 2:31 a.m., he saw 3 guards escorting 2 inmates, heads down, hands cuffed, toward the non-existent C-Wing corridor. Rourke followed them at a distance, heart pounding. The hallway was darker than the others, older, the paint peeling. The door marked C-Wing Storage buzzed as one guard swiped a keycard. The lock clicked. They pushed the inmates inside. When the door closed, Rourke crept forward. The air smelled like metal and disinfectant. His fingers brushed the cold steel surface, and to his surprise, the keypad was smeared with something dark. Not dirt. Not grease. Something thicker. His stomach tightened. Before he could process it, he heard footsteps approaching from behind. Heavy. Fast. He darted behind a supply cart as the door swung open again. One guard stepped out. In his hand was Vega's ID badge. Rourke's breath caught. Vega never left. Vega never transferred. Vega was inside that door. And whatever was happening in C-Wing, the warden was protecting it. What Rourke didn't know yet was that the truth behind that door would put every guard, every inmate, and the warden himself in danger. Because C-Wing wasn't storage. It was a secret Wardell would kill to keep buried, the corridor that didn't exist. Rourke didn't sleep the next day. He lay on his bunk staring at the ceiling, replaying the scene again and again, the guards disappearing into C-Wing, Vega's ID badge dangling from a gloved hand, the metallic scent of bleach still clinging to the air. By noon, rumors spread through the block. 2 inmates had vanished overnight. No names. No explanations. Just, gone. But the older prisoners didn't look confused. They looked afraid. One whispered, "C-Wing got them." Another muttered, "Warden's doing his Thursday sweep." Rourke realized he wasn't uncovering a secret. He was stepping into a legend. A real one. When lunch ended, Officer Halpern, one of the guards Rourke had seen the night before, walked into the cell block with an unusual announcement. Random shakedown. Everyone on your bunks. Random was a lie. Rourke saw the way Halpern scanned each bunk, checking faces, pausing a little too long when he reached Rourke's. He was looking for something, or someone. Rourke forced himself to breathe normally. After the sweep, Halpern pulled him aside. "Warden wants to see you." Again. Rourke's stomach turned to ice. The warden's office was immaculate. A bookshelf of law journals. A glass case of awards. And behind his desk, Warden Elias Wardell, calm, collected, with eyes that saw too much. "Damon," Wardell said in a voice that could charm a snake, "I hear you've been exploring restricted areas." "That's not like you." Rourke's pulse hammered. "I wasn't exploring anything." A light broke in the hallway. "I was trying to get out of the way." Wardell smiled thinly. "Greystone can be unsettling at night. Men hear things. Invent stories." Rourke held his gaze. "Like the stories about C-Wing?" Wardell didn't blink. "There is no C-Wing." Silence. Sharp, tense, suffocating. Then Wardell leaned back, tapping a folder on his desk. "Damon, you're a smart man. You keep to yourself. You have potential for early release, if you cooperate." "Cooperate with what?" Rourke asked. Wardell folded his hands. "Stop asking questions about things that aren't your concern." It wasn't a request. It was a threat disguised as an offer. Rourke left the office with his heartbeat pounding in his ears. Wardell was losing control. Vega's disappearance had rattled him. The warden didn't want silence. He needed silence. That night, Rourke made a choice that changed everything. He approached Officer Riley, the only guard who treated inmates like human beings. Riley had been at Greystone longer than anyone else. He walked like a man exhausted by what he'd seen. Rourke caught him during cleaning duty. "I need to know the truth," he whispered. "About C-Wing. About Vega. About what Wardell is hiding." Riley's face went pale. He grabbed Rourke by the shirt and shoved him against the wall. "You don't talk about that. Not if you want to survive." "Then tell me," Rourke hissed. "Tell me why Vega never left." Riley hesitated, then his shoulders sank. "It used to be a medical wing," he muttered. "Long before your time. Solitary overflow. They shut it down 15 years ago after 3 inmates died in one weekend. Overdose. Fight. Heart failure. That's what the report said." "What really happened?" Rourke asked. Riley swallowed. "They were being punished. Experimented on. Wardell wasn't warden yet, but he was here. He was part of it." Rourke stared at him. "So why reopen it now?" Riley's voice cracked. "Because Wardell needs a place to put the men who know too much. The ones who complain. The ones like Vega." Rourke felt the floor tilt beneath him. "What happens to them?" he whispered. Riley couldn't look him in the eye. "They disappear. And once that door closes, no one ever comes back. Rourke's throat tightened. Vega had been taken to a torture wing disguised as a storage room, a place scrubbed from the public record. Then Riley leaned closer. "If you want proof," he whispered, "meet me tomorrow morning. Maintenance room D. I'll show you something you're not supposed to see." Rourke nodded. But the next morning, Riley didn't show up. Instead, 2 guards carried his body out on a stretcher, covered by a white sheet. Warden Wardell stood behind them, expression colder than stone. And pinned to Riley's lifeless chest was his name badge. C-Wing access level. Something Riley never should have had. Which meant Wardell knew. He knew everything. And now, Rourke was next. The truth buried in concrete. Rourke didn't speak for the rest of the day. He couldn't. Riley's body being rolled across the yard silenced him in a way no threat ever had. The guards walking beside the stretcher didn't look sad. They looked relieved. As if a loose end had finally been tied. But Rourke saw something the others missed. Riley's name badge, the one pinned to his chest, had a faint streak of dried dirt across the bottom edge. As if someone had dragged it across the ground. As if someone had placed it there after the fact. Wardell stood behind the stretcher, hands clasped neatly, watching the inmates watch him. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. The message was clear. Rourke was next. That night, Rourke couldn't sleep. He felt every creak of the old pipes, every whisper down the hallway. And around 2:30 a.m., right on schedule, he heard it again. Boots. Voices. The hum of the electronic lock to C-Wing's forbidden door. He had 2 options, hide until Wardell erased him too, or act. He chose the latter. Rourke slipped out of his cell during a block-wide distraction, an inmate argument staged with 2 friends he trusted, and made his way toward Maintenance Room D. If Riley left anything behind, it would be there. Inside the room, under a pile of mops and paint cans, Rourke found a rusted metal panel with a dented corner. He pulled. It screeched, then popped open to reveal a narrow crawlspace. His heart pounded as he crawled inside. The tunnel was cramped and cold. Cobwebs brushed his hands. Pipes rattled overhead. But deeper in, he found something he wasn't prepared for. A second panel, and behind it, a small cardboard box. Inside were photos. Dozens of them. Old, grainy shots of bruised inmates, restraints, medical equipment, rooms stained with something darker than dirt, all labeled with dates from 15 years ago. And in every photo, standing in the corner, half-shadowed, a younger Elias Wardell. Not wearing a warden's uniform. Wearing medical gloves. Rourke's stomach twisted. Riley had kept evidence. Evidence of the old experiments. Evidence Wardell would kill to bury. And then, Rourke froze. Bootsteps. Clothes. Moving fast. He slipped out of the tunnel and pressed himself behind a stack of paint cans just as Wardell himself stepped into the maintenance room. Wardell wasn't alone. 2 guards flanked him. "Search everywhere," Wardell said. His voice didn't quiver. "He's smarter than the others." They tore the room apart. Tools clattered. Shelves toppled. 1 guard kicked the crawlspace panel. But they missed the box in Rourke's hands. When they finally left, Rourke exhaled a shaky breath. He just stared death in the face and kept still long enough for it to blink. He had one chance, get the evidence to someone outside. He slipped toward the laundry loading bay. From there, he could reach the perimeter fence. If he climbed and ran, he might make it. But as he approached the exit, someone stepped out of the shadows. Not a guard. An inmate. An older man with a deep scar along his jawline. "You Rourke?" the man asked. Rourke stiffened. "Who wants to know?" The man raised both hands in peace. "Name's Dalton. Riley told me to find you if something happened to him." Rourke's chest tightened. "Did he tell you what's in this box?" Dalton shook his head. No. Just said it was the truth. And the truth needed to get out. Outside, the alarm blared suddenly. Wardell had discovered the missing evidence. Lights flooded the yard. It's now or never, Dalton said. Rourke nodded. They sprinted out of the bay and climbed the fence as spotlights swung wildly. Guards shouted. Dogs barked. Bullets cracked into the dirt at their feet. But Rourke didn't stop. Dalton hurled him over the top, just as a guard tackled Dalton to the ground. Go! Dalton yelled. Rourke ran through the woods behind Greystone, clutching the box, lungs burning, feet bleeding. He didn't stop until sunrise, when he staggered onto a rural highway and collapsed. A trucker found him an hour later. And that box changed everything. Federal investigators raided Greystone. Wardell was arrested, then indicted. 15 years of buried crimes rose to the surface. But the story didn't end there. 3 months later, Rourke received a letter in protective custody. No return address. Just 3 words, written in neat, controlled handwriting. You missed one. And attached was a photo. A recent one. Of a door. The same door labeled C-Wing Storage. Still locked. Still active. Still hiding something Wardell never confessed. If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one, hit subscribe so you don't miss it.